Yay, there we go.
Mm.
Okay, everybody. Um, I just want to welcome everyone back to the Livona chapter of Hadassah
Can't hear you.
Israel. Can you hear me?
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me? No? Oh, I wonder what's happening. Okay, hold on.
Now you're okay. Now you're okay.
I'm okay.
We've got you back. We've got you back.
Okay, must have been a little Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
So I want to welcome everyone back to the Livona chapter of Hadassah Israel's learning program. We've been away from each other for a while because of the Chagim and summer, etc., war, peace, everything, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. We've had a busy summer, and now we're back together, and I'm very, very happy about that. So I want to welcome everybody back to class on this very auspicious day, the day after American elections. And I hope everyone is well and happy and that they're all safe. Before we started recording, we've prayed for the Chayalim and the hostages, and we've made our Hadassah announcements. We hope you will check your emails. There's some wonderful Hadassah programs coming up in November, so please check your emails for Hadassah programming. Okay, so here we are. We've completed the Sefer Shoftim. Many of you were at the siyum that we made here at my house, and we sort of ended the discussion of judges. Most people don't learn judges very well, if at all. And after learning about Shoftim, I, in particular, was extremely moved by the Sefer. I actually believe, after reading Shoftim, that in a very strange way, we as Jews, as we entered into Eretz Yisrael for the first time, were mandated by Hashem to rid Hashem's holy land of immorality, idolatry, terrible, terrible evil, and terrible, terrible moral situations that were going on between the Canaanites and all the inhabitants of Eretz Yisrael. And we were mandated to destroy them and get rid of them. Each and every one of the countries that did not belong there and were doing terrible things in God's land. The interesting thing is, no matter how many judges we had, we were unable as a group of tribes trying to coalesce as a nation, we were unable to get rid of the nations amongst us. In fact, we found it so difficult that instead of getting rid of the nations, which God says will be like a thorn in your eye until you get rid of them, instead of getting rid of them, we assimilated in their society rather than having them, the evil, come into our good society. So what did I feel like when I was reading this? I was so disappointed. These are the people who are supposed to be showing us the way of real strong Jewish commitment to God. These are the people who are the next generation after the Exodus. They saw miracles like never before. They saw signs and wonders. They were amazingly gifted by Hashem, and yet they couldn't do the work of Hashem. So over time, as I'm teaching the different judges, I'm thinking, well, for God, there's no such thing as time. Future, past, present, it's all one big thing.
Mess.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly, yeah, it is. It's all the same for God. God, as right this second, as I'm talking about God, God is in the future, past, and present, all at one time. And the interesting thing about this is that when God says to Abraham, for example, I will make you as numerous as the stars in the heaven. And what does God give him? One child. Is that as numerous as the stars in the heaven? No. But for God, God sees the future at the same time that he's giving one child to Abraham. And so consequently, God knew that we would be perhaps like the stars in the heaven. And I'm saying to myself repeatedly over the time that I'm teaching Shoftim and experiencing the war in Israel, I'm saying to myself, perhaps with God's unlimited boundaries of time, maybe we right now are doing the work of the Shoftim period. We are perhaps ridding ourselves of the enemy. We have taken on the responsibility, finally, to remove the enemy from our presence. And it seems that we're not going to stop after just one skirmish, after one country, Gaza, after Lebanon. We are in it to win it. And perhaps after all these years, thousands of years, when time means nothing to God, maybe we have been chosen to do the work that the Shoftim can't finish. Our children and our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, perhaps, are the zealots that are taking up arms in a time when God says enough, enough. And I'd like to throw that out to you to think about it. And I'm certainly happy to hear what you think about it. But I found that this gave me a profound sense of calmness, as opposed to before I was thinking of this. And for me, having my boys and relatives and all of your children in this war, it gave me a more calming feeling that there is a higher purpose to all of this. And if we see it as that, perhaps some of our history can make even more sense to us. So I'm throwing that out there as something to ponder as we begin to take a look at the new chapter of Sefer Shmuel. But in the meantime, what I want to do is I want to just go back a minute. I want to share something on the screen with you. Can you see this? Can you see the pictures? Okay. So after saying what I just said about how I feel, this is a personal feeling, and I spoke to a rabbi about this the other day, throwing it out, and he said, that's a possibility, something I hadn't thought about. So what I want to do I feel that we need to say thank you and goodbye to these 12 judges. Let's see, Linda, do you see them? Can you we're gonna just mention them, and then I'm going right into some things about Shoftim. But I think for me, I want to say goodbye to these people. Great. So first of all, we had, go ahead,
Oh.
Linda.
Othniel, then we had Ehud, then we had Shamgar, then we had Devorah, Gideon, Tola, Yair, Sheftah,
Yiftach,
Ibzan, Ilan, Abdon, and finally Samson.
that's right. Okay. So we say goodbye to those characters who we learned so much from in Shoftim, but I hope that you can take with you the ideology and the information, the historical information about that period of time, and now understand Shmuel better. So why am I saying here this? I have little notes I'm going to share with you. So why did we start learning over this? It's almost 11 years ago. We started this learning group. I can't believe that it's been so long. It was not in my head that this would go on and on and on. At the time when we started it, and I know you've heard this over and over, we started with the Tehillim,
Right.
and with the historical background of Shmuel. And it was very important for me to give that historical background so we could really understand the Tehillim that were written by so many people, mainly David HaMelech. So I'm telling you that we started kind of like towards the end of the Sefer Shmuel when King Shaul is anointed, because that was really the time that we start hearing about David as a young boy. And in order for us to understand where we've come full circle, how we've come full circle, it's important to know that understanding Tehillim and the background of Shmuel gave us the tools to go forward and learn so much, almost all of Tanakh and Nach, and so all the writings of Ketuvim. I also want you to understand that as we leave and Shoftim and enter into Shmuel, we see that in many of your texts, almost everyone's text says Shmuel Aleph and Shmuel Bet.
Right.
Shmuel Aleph and Shmuel Bet at one time in history was one book. We're not really sure why it was split into two. It could have been the printers of years ago separating the two, thinking that there was the stories were really two different sections, whatever they felt, but it was one book. And it talks to us about a period of time of 100 years from the time of Eli. It's spelled Eli in our English text, but in the Hebrew, it's pronounced Eli. Eli, the Kohen Gadol, who was in charge of the Mishkan and all of the religious activities of Eretz Yisrael as we came into Eretz Yisrael, and our religious capital was in Shiloh. The
Right.
religious capital was the place where we had the Mishkan with the Aron HaKodesh. And it was the place where the Shalosh Regalim, the 3 holidays, people ascended to and gave sacrifices. It was a time when people didn't take their Sidur and their Chumash to the Beit Knesset and daven, and had a Musaf and a Midah. They didn't have that. They took their Karbanot, they went to the Mishkan, they gave the sacrifice, they probably schmoozed for a while, and that was their religious experience. So we're going to learn some very new things about what happened in Shmuel that changes the complexion of our relationship with God and with each other. Now, these are the things that I would like to have you remember,
Wow, is it
because these are important historical events that are going to converge together, and you're going to say, whoa, how did this happen? Because we often read in Tanakh each story as a compartmentalized story. You know, you pick up a Sefer for this, a pick up this, and you don't put it all together. But look what we're going to be learning about. Okay? Remember that towards the end of Shoftim, the story of Ruth and Boaz is unfolding. How do we know that? Because in Sefer Ruth, the first line as it opens says, in the days when the judges judge.
Right.
And so, and many of the Meforshim say that famine that Elimelech was running away from with his sons, that famine was one of the situations that was going on during the period of the Shoftim. And so consequently, we learn of his failure to take charge of his people because he was someone important in Beit Lechem. And Ruth and Naomi come back to Beit Lechem, and Ruth eventually marries Boaz.
Right.
So what do we learn? We learn that, let's see here, let's talk about Ruth becomes the mother of a son with Boaz called Oved. Oved is the father of Yishai, Jesse.
Right.
Jesse is the father of David.
Right.
Okay, so we see where the Sefer Megillat Ruth is going to segue into the importance of Sefer Shmuel. Now let's see what else is going to come and converge as we transition from Shoftim, from individual judges that are picked by God to be the warriors, how that's going to impact on the characters of Shmuel. Now, Sefer Shmuel seems to sets the position of the Kohen Gadol, and we see that position is going to start to slip away from Eli HaKohen Gadol because of the actions of his sons, and then the appearance of Shmuel on the scene, and how Shmuel gets to become, after Eli, the next judge. He was really considered a judge, but the position turns into becoming a Navi. And the Nevi'im start to take a different position than the Kohen Gadol. And we hear more about the Nevi'im in Sefer Shmuel than the Kohanim. Another thing that we're going to transition from and to is that that the Mishkan, the Ark of the Covenant, is going to be changing places of its location. It's going to go from sitting in Shiloh in the heart, what we call the heartland of Judah and Samaria, to eventually when David HaMelech is anointed by Shmuel, he's going to bring it to his city of David, and he's going to ask God to help him build the Beit HaMikdash in Jerusalem. And we are going to learn that he is not given the right or privilege or the honor of building the Beit HaMikdash.
This to me.
So you see where Ruth, the story, the Megillat Esther, and the judges are now like coming together to create an even bigger story. And then we're going to find out that let's see where that let me see, where am I here? That we have two more judges that were introduced to in Sefer Shmuel. First of all, the judge is Eli HaKohen HaGadol, and the second is going to be Shmuel. Now, why aren't they included in the in Sefer Shoftim? It's because these two people are not really chosen by God. Everybody else was chosen by God in the Sefer of Shoftim. They were given position as the warriors, but these two are not warriors. See, the Shoftim were chosen to lead the people of Israel out of terrible situations by means of war, unfortunately. And these two people are not going to, they have a different direction. So, Shmuel is going to take the position of the nation's first Navi, and he's going to eventually anoint David. Now, who wrote Sefer Shmuel? Well, the first author, there's three authors. The first author of Sefer Shmuel is Shmuel until he dies. There's Gad, G-A-D, and there is the Navi Natan, who succeeds Shmuel. Now, let's continue here. So we talked about that the period of time is 100 years, and that we're also going to be introduced in this Sefer of the difference between the Shoftim, the judges, and the kings, and what their jobs and their duties and the laws regarding those duties to the nation entail. It's very interesting because the people of Israel really wanted to have
a king
right away. But Yehoshua says no. Yehoshua says we don't need a king. We have an almighty king. So why do we need a king? So the thing is that here we find ourselves in a conundrum. Were we supposed to choose a king? Because that's what it tells us to do in the Torah. Or were we supposed to wait and say, God is our king? Now, God is not pushing kingship right away. He's saying you have a job to do in Shoftim. Now we're at the end of Shoftim, and we failed the job. We failed the job description. So now we're going into the text of Shmuel, and we're going to read of what the stories are going to entail. Now, by way of just a quick introduction into Shmuel, our first story is going to be intertwined with two stories. One is going to be the story of Hannah and the birth of, spoiler alert, the birth of Shmuel and Eli HaKohen, who was in Shiloh. So I'm going to go to the text, and we're going to read. I don't know if everybody is on. Dorothy, would you read for us when I put the...
Sure.
Okay, can you see that?
Oh, read there. Oh, okay.
This is Shmuel Aleph, chapter 1. We're starting and we're going to discuss it. Okay, let's go.
And there was one man from Ramatayim Sophim, from Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Yeruham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. And he had two wives. The name of the one was Hannah, and the name of the second was Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there. Now, we've learned a lot of information already, that there was a righteous man, there was a good man who was from the tribe of Ephraim. The last stories that we heard from in Shoftim were terrible, terrible stories about the Pelegesh of Givah, the woman who was chopped up and sent, and that woman was from Ephraim. She married an Ephraimite, and it was against the whole war was the Ephraimites against the Benjamites. Okay, so here we have another Ephraimite person from Ephraim, the tribe of Ephraim, and he is a righteous man, a good man, and he has two wives. The first, now whether he married one before the other, and it's listed in order, or whether it's the preference, how much he loved one of the or the other, we find out that the first wife was Hannah, and she was barren. And the second, we learn, is Peninnah, who had children. Now you might say, here we go again. Another Jewish woman who can't have children. But this story is really remarkable in many, many ways. And it's Hannah who comes out as the heroine of this story. So let's follow her and what happens. Go ahead.
And that man was wont to go up from his city, from appointed time to appointed time, to prostrate himself and to slaughter a peace offering to the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. And there the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Pinchas, were serving the Lord. And when it was the day, and Elkanah slaughtered, and he would give to Peninnah his wife and to all her sons and daughters portions. And to Hannah he would give one choice portion, for he loved Hannah, and the Lord had shut up her womb.
Okay, so here we have some more information. We learn that this was the time of Eli HaKohen in Shiloh, and that he was in charge of the religious activities there, and that Elkanah would go with sacrifices there. It says time to time, and we are assuming that those time to times are the Shalosh Regalim. There's a lot of midrashim about how and about how he was so righteous he would encourage people on the way to come with him and to give sacrifices, etc. But it's not in the text, so we're not going to talk about his character. And that he takes some of his sacrifices, he gives it to his wife Penina and her children, and he gives a very special portion to his beloved wife Hannah, who has no children. Okay, continue.
And her rival would frequently anger her in order to make her complain, for the Lord had shut up her womb. And so he would do year by year, as often as she went to the house of the Lord. So she would anger her, and she wept and would not eat.
Okay.
And Elkanah, her husband,
Go ahead.
said to her, Hannah, why do you weep, and why do you not eat? And why is your heart sad? Am I not better to you than 10 sons?
All right. Such a guy. Such a guy. He's, am I not good enough for you? It's like 10 sons. Okay. Such a guy thing. All right. So here we find that that Hannah would accompany Elkanah, and to go up to Shiloh, and she was part of his entourage. A lot of times the women didn't go with the husbands on the Shalosh Regalim because they stayed home with the children. Oftentimes, the men just went and came home and reported back, I suppose, what was, what had transpired. But here we find that Hannah goes with her husband, but she is so consumed by this childlessness that she is enduring, that she can't sleep, she can't eat, she can't function, she can't do anything. It's so difficult for her to carry on. And the husband says, come on, Hannah, like, cheer up, get a grip. Am I not good enough for you that, you shouldn't feel this way? And we find that in the Torah, with our matriarchs, a lot of the patriarchs say, some of them say similar things, and they don't understand the need for many women. I'm not going to say all women because that is not true, but for many, many women to want and have children. Now, Hannah, as opposed to Sarah in her childlessness, is not silent. She is not going to take this literally lying down. Sarah, Abraham's wife, who was childless, says to herself, look, I'm old now. There's nothing I can do. I'm past my prime. I can't have children. I guess that's the way it is, and that's the way it'll have to be. I will have to just accept what is. But Hannah is not going to accept what is. She's got an agenda, and she's got something to say, and we're going to learn what it is. Go ahead.
And Hannah arose after eating and after drinking, and Eli, the priest, was sitting on the chair beside the doorpost of the temple of the Lord. And
That's
she
the
was
Mishkan.
and she was bitter in spirit, and she prayed to the Lord and wept. And she vowed a vow and said to the Lord of hosts, if you will look upon the affliction of your bondswoman, and you will remember me, and you will not forget your bondswoman, and you will give your bondswoman a man-child.
I love the days of his life.
Oh, keep going.
And
And
I shall give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall come upon his head.
All right, stop there, stop there. Okay, what does that mean? No razor will come upon his head.
he's a Nazarite.
That's right, he's a Nazir. That's right. Okay, and what else do you learn from there? Does Sarah ask for a son? Does Rachel ask for a son? No, they ask for children.
Children, she wants a son.
She wants a man child. She wants a
Right.
son. Okay. Now, what else do we learn here?
She wants a son, but she's willing to sort of give him up.
Okay. Well, wait. Do we find that? You're a little bit ahead. Okay. We don't know how many children Penina has. We don't know what the sexes are of the children of Penina. We know that in the Abraham story, Sarah says, "Look, I'm not going to be able to give you children. Take my maidservant Hagar and have a son, because you were promised that you were going to be like the stars in the heavens, and I'm unable to do this for you." She is the calmer, quieter. She's resigned herself to the back burner. She's not the fighter that Hannah is. So let's see what happens here, because Hannah knows that Elkanah has children, but she's not satisfied that he has children. She wants her own child. And here we're going to find out several things about Hannah. So listen carefully so you can tell me what we've learned about her. Go ahead.
And it was as she prayed long before the Lord that Eli watched her mouth.
What she was
But
trying.
Hannah, she was speaking in her heart, and only her lips were moving, and her voice was not heard. And Eli thought her to be a drunken woman. And Eli said to her, "Until when will you be drunk? Throw off your wine from upon yourself." And Hannah answered and said, "No, my lord, I am a woman of sorrowful spirit, and neither new wine nor old wine have I drunk, and I poured out my soul before the Lord. Deliver not your bondswoman before the unscrupulous woman, for out of the abundance of my complaint and my vexation have I spoken until now." And Eli answered and said, "Go in peace, and the God of Israel will grant your request which you have asked of him."
Okay. Okay. So here we find something very interesting. Maybe I will go. Okay, so what we find here is an amazing story. First of all, here's Hannah crying her eyes out in the Mishkan. She's praying in a corner. She's trying to be, not the center of attraction. She's trying very hard to connect with God and her own emotions that are pouring out of her. And she says to God, I want a man child. I want a son. Now, what is she really saying? Keep in mind that this story comes on the heels of Shoftim. So here is this woman, and she says to God, "Listen, God, your Shoftim didn't do so good. Your Shoftim didn't rid the country of the terrible people they were supposed to. And we don't have a leader, and we don't have anyone taking charge. I'm going to make a deal with you, God. She says,
Yeah.
I am asking you for a son, and if you give me a son, I will give him back to you. What she's saying, you need a leader.
Yeah.
You need someone to lead this country, and you don't have it. But if you give me a son and I give him back to you, he is going to be your leader. So she's putting out a bargain to God. She's not giving up so easy just by sitting there and crying. So the second thing we learn is that not only is she offering her child to become God's leader and to make the world a better place because she feels that that's what could happen, she's also talking to God from her heart. Now here's the Kohen Gadol, and he's looking at this woman. He says to her, "Are you
Drunk.
Are you drunk? You're moving your lips, but you're not saying anything, and you're crying, and you look. It's embarrassing to watch you, lady. How long are you going to be in this state of inebriation?" And she says, basically, she says to him, "Excuse me? Are you kidding me? You don't know what it looks like when a woman is in such pain or a person is in such distress that they are pouring their hearts out to God?" And the truth is, he didn't.
Right.
What was he used to seeing when people came to the Mishkan? He was used to seeing a slaughter of an animal, putting on the Mizbeach, saying what needed to be said, a korban shalom, a korban hoda'ah, a korban shalema, whatever the korban was for that occasion. That he saw people slaughtering animals, doing what they were supposed to do, and then going home.
Did Ellie have a wife?
Yeah.
Ailey, did he have a wife?
He had a wife because he had two sons. His two sons were Hophni and Pinchas.
Okay. Right, it just said. Okay.
That's okay. And we're going to learn about those two sons soon. But his wife doesn't seem to play any prominence whatsoever, so we don't know anything about her. But we do know that Hannah tells Ellie, "You don't know what you're talking about here. You've never seen someone as distressed as I am. And I'm talking to God. And I need to have this time, and I need to make this bargain, and I need to get it out of my soul so that I can continue with my life." Now, when she tells Ellie that he's mistaken and that what she's doing is not improper, he then corrects himself and says, "I hope that all that you ask for will be granted to you." He says, "Go home, and God will answer your prayers." This is the first time that we see in the history of the Torah Tanakh that a person is praying silently. And this is where we get the Amida and the Musa from Hannah. She teaches us how to pour out our souls to God in silence and in devotion. And she teaches us that talking to God, having a relationship with God, is more than slaughtering an animal. That we understand the power of words, not only actions, but in those words, we can have a relationship with God.
It's interesting.
Those of you who know me for all these years, I'm always telling you, God is with us 24/7. We can talk to God at any time, in any place, anywhere. If there is a time that you need to just sit down because something is on your mind, you can do that and just talk to God as if he was your friend sitting in the next chair.
Mm.
I also do that every Friday night as I light my candles. I probably am the person who stands at the candles for the longest amount of time. My kids and grandchildren keep looking at me like, okay, new. But I have a lot to say to God on Friday night when the gates of heaven is open and God is receptive to our prayers. And so I talk to God as if he were my best friend. And that's important for us women to understand. It's not a shanda. It's not a busha, an embarrassment.
Right.
Just like talk to God. I mean, people may think you're nuts, but you're not. You should be talking to God. It's the people who don't that are nuts. So I encourage you, when you're lighting your candles, when you're on the way, when you're in the car, when you've got a minute, when things are going right and when things are going wrong, you just lift up your voice to God in your innermost soul and you talk to God and tell him. Now, you're going to say, oh, this woman is nuts. But the
Mhm.
truth of the matter is, every Friday night, I tell God, he has got the power to do something miraculous over Shabbat that will knock my socks off when I turn on the computer on Motzei Shabbat. And I tell him, don't disappoint me. And 3 times in a row, I'm telling you, God came through. It was with the death of Sinwar, it was the death of Nasrallah, and it was the some other part of the invasion of Lebanon, and 3 things. Oh, and the invasion of Iran. Each one were over the weekend, and I said, you see, God, that wasn't so hard. Look what you did. Look how you helped your people. You did it at Egypt. You did it before. You've done it. You can do it again. Show us you are with us, that you have the might and the courage to help us. We're doing the best we can, but we need your help. And there goes. My prayers were answered. So I'm telling you, every one of you, open your hearts to Hashem and ask him for those important things. Now, here's Kana. She is ready to go home. She has said her piece, and she is hopeful that her prayers will be answered. And I think that this is a very good place to stop and ask if there's any questions, any comments. Feel free. Come on, ladies. Let's go. Come on. Do you have anything you want to say about this?
I have something crazy to share.
Go
You'll
ahead.
all- And you'll all think I'm nuts when you
Well,
talk
they
about.
already we're all nuts.
Okay. I talk a lot to God in the shower, and that's also a place where I cry. It's very soothing to have the water come down on you, and that's my place. I'm sharing. Don't spread it around, okay? Just sharing.
Nothing we say leaves this room.
Okay,
Well, actually.
but I
in
had to
fact,
share that with you because
recording
you said
this.
about your candles, which I do anyway, but not as long as the shower.
Okay. Well, that's a very, very cleansing
Yeah,
comment.
it's the feeling of the hot water. And
Right,
you
right.
just, it's
Right.
like a release. I can't
Yeah.
explain it, but that's my place.
All good, all good. I'm sure that there are many other people who have places that,
Yeah.
are there any comments so far about how this Sefer is transitioning from a point in time to go on the derech of such important things? You see where we're going with this? Do you see how our history is so crucial for us to know, understand and know as we go, instead of saying, well, did this happen in a vacuum? Did this happen with nothing else going on in our lives, as a nation? Did this happen, with no one at our doorstep threatening us or whatever? Was this the right time that we listened to God? Was this the right time that the Torah comes into place and play? So all these things that converge together are so amazing. And that is when we see the miracles, when we see that Ruth and Shmuel and Eli and and the historical implications of the Torah are all coming together, and things are they're gonna go wild. So okay.
Rhonda, aren't we living that now?
Well, that's what I just said a little while ago. I said, are we completing the task of Bnei Yisrael in the times of Shoftim that didn't get rid of the enemy? Are we completing that now for God? That's what I'm asking. Exactly what I'm asking. We are living through it now. Now, for us, that's 2,000 years. We're not going to see that, but God sees it all.
Right.
And his understanding of time, past, present, and future is in a blink of an eye. But for us, we go, whoa, we're right in the thick of the whole story. And I believe we are. I
And
believe,
it's amazing that we're starting this now, on
yes,
today.
yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking,
yeah, Rose.
I'm living with it, Joan.
So
speaking of what's,
Rose, do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, you're right. We are. I think we are. I think that our generation was chosen to finish the job.
Well, I hope we're up to it.
Well, I hope we are too, and I hope our leaders are up to it also. And you see that our leaders are changing. You see that at this crucial moment, when we have engaged with Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran, when we have the Abraham Accords in place and could possibly expand, when it's incredible when we have people being fired and let go, and the change of what's going on in the politics. I think these are things converging that says you're on the right direction. Hang in there. And I think that gives me a sense of calm because I feel there's a purpose to all this.
Could I just say another thing, that I hope that we all recognize the fact that we were alive at a time of a major miracle with Iran sending all of those planes, that it was a miracle. I felt that way as soon as I heard about it. I said, oh my God, I'm alive. I didn't see us come out of Egypt. I didn't see the Red Sea, but I am alive to know that over 100 planes tried to decimate us and didn't. And not
300.
a person was injured.
That's
To
right.
me, I wrote everybody in my family on my WhatsApp. I sent, I said, do you know that you were alive to see a major miracle? And that's the way I felt about it.
Right.
A major miracle that I was alive to be in place for.
Right. That's right. Anybody else have some comments? Questions?
Just stay tuned and check the news because red alert rocket sirens sounding all across central and northern Israel.
Really?
Explosions, 10 rockets launched from Lebanon towards central and northern Israel.
Oh, where's Central?
And one rocket reportedly struck near Ben Gurion, though no injuries or significant damages have been reported.
Right.
So,
Which means
we're-
another year they won't fly planes to Israel.
so it ain't over.
It's not over till the fat lady sings. So
Right, right.
Such an old saying. Oh my gosh.
You know, it's interesting. Somebody commented that we're all looking forward to November 5th, which was yesterday, and the election. But they said the significant day is going to be November 6th, which is today. And Dorothy, what you're reading
Yeah.
is fulfilling what this person commented.
right.
Wow.
So right. So what we're going to see is the displeasure of Iran through its proxies that the political situation has changed for the worse for them in America and for the better for us in Israel. So I think
They're taking advantage now.
right. There's a period of time between now and January where we're going to see a lot of stuff going on because I believe after Trump takes office, he's going to slam the Iranians. He's going to sanction them. He's going to shut them down. And he's going to tell Israel, whatever you need to get the job done, you just do it. Do it.
Especially because he got the Senate and the House of Representatives now.
Yep. I think that the deciding votes have been Hashem's hand in all of this.
I do also.
And I believe that I believe that this is going to be an eye-opening moment in our history and in our lives. So we have to really look at it. Look at it, everybody, when we are watching this in real time. And we'll all converge someday, 100 years from now in heaven, and we'll talk about it and go,
Are we going
"What?"
to have a class? We're going to have,
On Wednesday morning.
Right,
okay?
that's right. We'll congregate around the Kisei HaKavod and we'll talk about, wasn't that an amazing period of time we lived through?
Right.
I'm telling you.
But it's so good to have you back, Rhonda. I miss this class so much. I have to tell you, it was a dry summer.
Really.
It really was.
Well, listen, ladies, I hope that this is kind of giving you some chizuk. It's giving you some things to think about.
Yeah.
And that next week, when we continue with Hannah and how her wish comes true, we're going to really see some amazing things. I'm telling you, it'll try and start putting things in our lives, our spiritual and religious lives in order. It's going to be amazing. So have a great week. Have a safe week. And take good care of yourselves and your families and have a Shabbat Shalom. And I'm so glad to be back with you.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you,
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Everybody, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Okay, Chewy.